Canada is in an investment crisis, and Danielle Smith just made such an insane announcement that, without exaggerating, this project could make or break Canada. She outplayed Carney and called his bluff to such a degree that even the elbows up crowd will have to admit that Mark Carney is actively trying to destroy Canada economically from the inside if he does not approve this project. Just had the Alberta separatists down in the US talking with them about building another partnership. I will say, as crazy as this announcement is, Danielle Smith, in my opinion, made a huge mistake, which I think is crucial, and Albertans should be pushing back on when this project moves forward. Before the announcement, we have a couple clips for context to show how bad of a position Mark Carney's in because of how well Danielle Smith did set this up. There's a lot to talk about in today's video, so let's get into it.
Since he took office, 86,000 more Canadians are unemployed. We have the second highest unemployment in the G7. This is all the result of out-of-control government spending and taxes. Every dollar the Prime Minister spends comes out of the pockets of Canadians. And now the Parliamentary Budget Officer rates his deficits as, quote, very alarming, stupefying, shocking, unsustainable. If you don't change, this is done. Something is going to break. We are at the edge of a cliff. Those are the words of the Parliamentary Budget Officer. When will he stop his out-of-control spending? When he's over the edge of the cliff?
So, before we get into Carney's answer, this is the pressure that he's under right now. The budget officer is saying we're about to fall off an economic cliff in Canada that we won't be able to recover from. He has said that Canada will become an energy superpower, unleashing the resources. He keeps saying all these things, but not actually doing anything about it. So let's hear what he says here.
Mr. Speaker, there's a little thing called cause and effect. And the cause that the Leader of the Opposition is missing is the U.S. tariffs. The U.S. tariffs that are hitting steel, the U.S. tariffs that are hitting lumber, the U.S. tariffs that are hitting our auto sector. That's why we need to build this country strong. That's why we're getting spending under control. That's why we're going to spend less to invest more. I believe in this country, Mr. Speaker.
Spend less to invest more. And of course, he's got to blame Donald Trump, because the only person who's to blame for Canada's poor performance isn't 10 years of liberal management, it's Donald Trump. This is, again, why Danielle Smith's announcement was so perfect. She called out every single detail. There's nothing that they can do to recover from this if they deny it. Anyways.
Spend less? Deficit spending is up almost 100% since this Prime Minister took office. And as for investment, it has fallen. In fact, $50 billion of net investment has left since he took office. And yet he repeats the same promises the Liberals have been making for a decade. They said their deficits would lead to more investment. Since they took office, investment is down by 10%, the worst investment record in the G7. In fact, with $600 billion more debt under this government, investment has fallen. How much more debt would they have to add on the backs of Canadians to reverse this disastrous result?
So again, we know this. He just wants to add debt onto Canadians. He just wants government control. He wants the government to be in charge of these projects. He wants all of these things. Instead of removing the bills and encouraging private investment, and by the bills, I mean all of the rules and the regulations that he's put in place that are anti-investment for energy, for other companies to want to come in. They just want to have more government bureaucracy, which is very important when we get to the announcement. But look at this discussion with the Business Council of Canada, which again is helping paint Mark Carney into that corner to call his bluff.
Mr. Mark Carney, the Business Council of Canada, says if the federal government intends on financing investment by incurring more debt, then it better have a plan to bring it down. We're going to bring in Theo Argita, Senior Vice President of Policy at Business Council of Canada, for more on this. It's good to have you, sir. Thanks for taking the time.
It's great to be on. Thank you for having me.
So the Business Council of Canada is saying Canada is in an investment crisis. Let's start there. Can you explain why?
Can you explain why? Yeah, great question.
Well, I mean, businesses aren't investing enough in this country, and this is not a recent trend. I mean, this has been going on for a decade now. It's just that the recent geopolitics, the trade disputes, the trade wars we've been seeing this year has just exposed our economy to the fact that we're vulnerable to shocks because we haven't been investing in this economy. And the reason why we haven't been investing in this economy is because the investment environment hasn't been there. The government for almost a decade now hasn't been putting in place the conditions to really incent businesses to invest more in this economy.
Exactly. For a decade, they have not been sending the message. They have not been incentivizing private companies to invest in this economy. So when we got this announcement from Danielle Smith, I'm not joking, she laid it out so that there's no way that Mark Carney and his office can deny this project.
Major investment is what grows our economy, creates jobs, prosperity, and enhances our standard of living. And without question, a new oil pipeline to the northwest BC coast would have the greatest economic benefit of any new nation-building project. For example, had we completed the Northern Gateway project, the Energy East project, and the Keystone XL pipeline project, Canada's GDP today would be $55 billion stronger each and every year.
To be fair, Americans, I think the Keystone Pipeline was shut down on your end.
We cannot let another opportunity of this economic magnitude pass us by again. And that's why we are announcing that the government of Alberta will be the proponent of an oil pipeline to the northwest BC coast, with the support and technical advice of 3 major pipeline companies, including Southbow, Enbridge, and Trans Mountain. Our government will make a formal application to the Federal Project Office under the Building Canada Act. Today, we are beginning the engagement process with Indigenous groups across.
Okay, we're about to get into the part that I have a problem with. So that's the announcement. She is relaunching the Northern Gateway Pipeline, essentially. Already getting called Northern Gateway 2.0. And the fact is, she is now the proponent. The Liberal government has said, we don't have a proponent for any pipelines, so there's no way for us to approve it. There's no way for us to get it on the major projects list. Well, she said, you know what? Then we will be the proponent. And she's working with private companies to consult so that it hits the major project list and removes all of the barriers that the private companies are worried about. Because they know the government is standing in the way on purpose for all of these projects. So Danielle Smith said, you want a proponent? We'll do it. We will bash down all of the walls, all of the regulations that you've put in place that have scared away private investments, and they're going to set up a new pipeline. This is actually a huge first step. I've seen a ton of clickbait, people saying like, new pipeline announced. This is the first time that a real new pipeline actually was announced. And they have done everything to make it impossible for the federal government to say no, including an issue that I have, which we're going to get into. Now, let's get into the Indigenous stuff, because I think if I was from Alberta, this would be an issue.
Alberta and British Columbia, to ensure that they can be part of this nation-building effort. That conversation must begin with Indigenous engagement, not as a checkbox, but as a foundation for relationship building, trust, and shared leadership. This will lay the groundwork for full and thorough consultation as this project meets regulatory milestones. To be clear, though, this is about more than just fulfilling a legal duty to consult. It's about working together from the beginning to ensure that we get it right this time, informed by Indigenous perspectives and experiences. We also want to have Indigenous partners at the table as owners to participate not only as holders of territory, but as co-owners of a project and an asset that will provide wealth for First Nations for generations. Our Indigenous Relations team, led by Minister
So that's one of the things that I do have a problem with, because I watched the announcement and I did not see that there would be any level of Alberta taxpayer ownership in this project, because what they want to do is basically bash down all the barriers. She's calling Mark Carney's bluff. She's calling the federal government's bluff. She's getting the Indigenous involved. She's setting up the project. The idea is that a private company will then come in and essentially buy out the project and say, look, we will put up the $34 billion. That's how much they think it's going to cost to do this pipeline. We will put up the $34 billion to get this project completed, or whatever, a group of investors, however much it's going to take. That way, the Alberta taxpayers are not on the hook for obviously the billions of dollars, which they would not be able to afford. But from what I can see, there's no ownership. When you guys know I'm a big sovereign wealth fund guy, this would have been the opportunity. If you're going to be the proponent, if you do start to bring in these buyouts, I would love to see Alberta keep some level of ownership when they're only talking about the Indigenous population getting ownership of the pipeline. If that's the case, that better dig into the provincial budget on how much money gets divvied out to the Indigenous population of Alberta, because if they are part owners of this pipeline that gets built and they're getting hundreds of millions, billions, however much they are getting annually from this project, yeah, I think that should cut into their budget. So having them this involved so early in the project, I just don't think it's a good idea, because again, what precedent are you setting now that they own part of this? Are they going to own every project? Like blah, blah, blah. I don't like this. I actually think that's very bad for Canada that we're going to allow this extremely small population to own so much of the project and basically be the reason if it gets approved or not. I don't like that.
Will develop and lead an engagement plan in collaboration with First Nations across both provinces. You'll hear more details about this from the minister shortly. And to get this nation-building pipeline project underway, Alberta's government is committing $14 million to the technical design and detailed application design. To be clear, Alberta taxpayers will not be on the hook to build this pipeline. But this initial investment is crucial to get this important work underway, and we cannot let billions in investment and future revenues continue to flee our nation. We have worked closely with our pipeline companies to chart a path forward so that we can provide a detailed plan to be approved by the federal government. This work will be guided by an expert advisory committee with a dedicated full-time project management team that includes the top pipeline experts in North America. And it is my hope, with Alberta as the proponent, that we will see this pipeline project on the next list of nation-building projects announced by the federal government come Grey Cup in November.
That is the huge thing. You are on a timeline now, Carney, because they have all of the experts in the frickin' world. We have a proponent. We have the project structured. We allegedly have full Indigenous involvement and Native involvement. So Mark Carney, you have to approve this project. There is no reason that you can say no. There is no reason that this pipeline does not make the next major projects bill, except if this is the reason. And this is what I worry about with what's happening in Canada. Why I do think if this project is denied, it would be the largest case for Alberta separation we've ever seen. This is Desiree Fixler. She's tweeted about this stuff before. She said, Canada, your crisis isn't U.S. tariffs. It's Mark Carney. He's lying. He will never grow your economy. Carney is a managerial elitist pushing the Davos agenda, net zero, CBDCs, DEI, and many other strangleholds on growth and freedom. She said she knows because she was one of them. Traveled in Carney's WEF circles for years. These folks don't care about ordinary people. They're only driven by autocratic power and money. Free your country from this authoritarian heist. Unleash drilling, restore meritocracy, and take back your prosperity. Dump them. Not being hyperbolic when I say this is the project that could make or break Canada, because if this is denied, there's no way a pipeline will ever get approved in Canada. And they're showing that they are not serious about getting a project off the ground unless we get some sort of suspicious announcement that their friends get approved a pipeline. But I still don't even see that being the case. If this new pipeline is denied, Alberta will be left with no choice other than to become sovereign or join the United States, because they're even thinking that this project could take 10 years. Alberta will be running out of time and opportunity to turn the project around. But if you made it this far in the video, you absolutely rock. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We're trying to get these videos out in front of more people. We are trying to grow the channel. If you want to support the channel, you can do it through the link down below. You can also do it through YouTube directly. Thank you, and have a great rest of your day.